We're in the floral marquee, and I'm talking to Dawn Fisher from Lincolnshire Ponds, or Waterway. What's your actual, what do you call your company, Dawn?
Lincolnshire Pond Plants.
Lincolnshire Pond Plants. Now, we've just been chatting before we started doing a bit on film, and you were coming out with some absolute nuggets of how to keep your pond clean. I've grown up with ponds and wildlife and ponds since I was knee-high to grasshopper.
Yeah.
But you never stop learning in this trade, and that's why we want to talk to you.
So if you've got green water, you've got blanket weed, it
Yes.
just means your water is super, super nutritious. Nutritious water and sunlight make blanket weed and green water. The best way and the most efficient way without using any chemicals is to just go to the supermarket, buy a bag of watercress from the supermarket and chuck it on the water. It then roots as it goes across the water, and that eats the nutrients, which then helps clean your water.
Yes. You're going to make one of my customers very happy, because I put this wildlife pond in probably 3 years ago, and it's gone through various stages. It's got loads of weed and marginals. It's full of life, from dragonfly and caddisfly and water beetles and water boatmen and everything in there, whirligigs, and there are no fish. And a few tadpoles and lots of newts, and it's just every now and again you get these algal blooms of the blanket weed, so the watercress is a good trick.
But you get nutrients from, it can be bird poo, it can be all the amphibians that are going into your water, it can be runoff from the rain from grass and nearby. If you fertilised your grass, that's going to go into your water. All that makes the water nutritious, which then will make it green.
And the leaves, of course, if they
Leaves
come
off your
trees, whatever.
Yeah, anything like that.
Now, I know a lot of the plants regarding ponds are being sort of talked about as though they're being really nasty invasive. So what are some of the plants that we should and we should not be using and growing in ponds?
So if you're looking at encouraging particular wildlife,
Yep.
so for your frogs and your newts, you should be looking at your rafting plants, the ones that go across the top of the water. And the better ones to be using are things like a boldelia. You can have your water forget-me-not. Avoid things like Elodia crispa, which is now banned. You shouldn't be using that into your pond at all.
Now, is that what used to be called Canadian pondweed?
It's
Or is it a form of?
It's a form of, yeah.
Okay.
It's not actually that, because there are like 5 or 6 different varieties of it, all of which are okay apart from the crisper. It's got very, very curly leaves and it spreads like wildfire.
Okay.
And it shouldn't be used at all.
And you mentioned water hawthorn, water hyacinths.
Water hyacinths were also banned because they were really invasive in Spain. And they used to look amazing on everybody's ponds.
Yeah.
And they're not frost hardy. So in the UK, they were absolutely fine and they produced a beautiful flower. So the EU banned them. But now that we're out of the EU, the UK are thinking of bringing them back in next year.
How about azolla and duckweed? If people have got problems with too much of that on the surface of the pond, is it just a question of scooping that off with a pond net?
So scoop it off, flood it off, take your plants out and wash them. That's the only way to really get rid of both of those. And they are super invasive. You want to avoid putting them in your pond at all costs, because once you've got it, you can't get rid of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you've got a reasonable sized pond, it can come in with a duck or whatever.
Easily.
Or if the heron visits, it's stuck on his legs.
Yeah, very easily.
Okay.
But if you want to encourage particular wildlife, so we were on about, if you wanted your rafting plants, so you can have your boldelia, which is non-invasive. You can have
you got boldelia here?
We have got it over there, which is the little white one at the front there, the low growing.
Oh yeah, that's lovely.
Beautiful little plant. We've got things like the cotula. It's a non-native, but it is really nice and spreads across the top of your pond lovely. But we've also got the water forget-me-not, which is native.
Yes.
But those are ideal for the edges of your ponds, and then they spread into your pond for your frogs and your newts to be able to get in and out.
Yep.
If you want your dragonflies and your damselflies, then you need to start having your emergent plants, such as things like your Typha minima, Buttermus umbellatus, which is also another one which also is non-invasive, but that produces like an agapantha type flower. Right. So it gives you an alternative.
And the blue-flowered Pontodera?
Pontidaria is all right. It's not native, whereas
right,
I
so
think
I
a
didn't
lot
realise.
of people would like things to be native. So
Yeah,
Pontidaria
okay.
isn't native. It's a late season flower.
Yes.
So it's a really nice, strong plant, and it's very architectural. So if you wanted something more as a statement, I would go for something like that, or a Thalia, which also has really funky leaves.
And the iris pseudochorus, the yellow flag iris,
Yep.
that can actually get quite invasive on a pond.
Never put it in a pond.
No.
Not in a pond. Put it in a lake,
Yes.
put it in a river, but don't put it in a pond. It is too invasive, and it would need so much clearing out afterwards, and it could go through your liners.
Yeah. A bit like bulrush.
Bulrushes can. That's
But you've
why
got
the
some
type
minimal
of mini
ones.
ones.
This is a
This
lovely
is a
little thing,
miniature
isn't it?
one, and it's not as invasive. The only way you could keep a bulrush, if you wanted a bulrush in your in your pond, is to have a solid pot at the bottom and put only a few tiny holes in. Then it won't be able to spread out because they've
those
got quite
rhizomes,
thick roots.
yeah, they do, and they really go down.
Yeah, they can go through it.
Some of the other plants, you've got Houtonia chameleon, that variegated.
With its strong orange peel smell.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
And then you've even got some chives on the island there.
So chives like damp ground.
Yeah.
Chives will cope with damp ground. So creating a bog area in the middle of your pond
Yes.
is ideal. So you can do higher pots so that the feet are in the water, and then create this bog area so that then you've got hostas in the middle. The slugs can't get your hostas.
Yeah, 'cause they
they're
can't
in the middle of the pond. And you can also have your ferns and everything as a focal central point.
Right.
Instead of building something completely separate on the outside. It's never going to run out of water, so your little reservoir of water is not going to be sort of run out and dry out,
Okay.
and it's always in the middle.
And what sort of compost do you use? Because a lot of people tend to just sort of grab a bit of garden soil or whatever, and we can end up with a mass of mud and stuff in the water, and then you get like a huge algal bloom. So it's always better to go for.
Well, you can use aquatic compost.
Yep.
The only reason why they recommend aquatic compost is because it is very low in nutrients. It's not entirely empty of nutrients, so that could still cause algae in your pond.
Yep.
What you could do is do a bit like a substrate, like you do in an aquarium.
Okay.
So do it like a pot of pea gravel and plant straight into the pea gravel. You're not going to have any compost, you're not going to add any extra nutrients, and therefore you're going to prevent more algae in your pond.
And what sort of basket or container to use when you're doing some of these? Because there's lots of different forms and types. Any.
Just
Anything
stab
that's
some holes
perforated.
in the side. You don't have to buy anything special.
Good.
Just stab some holes in the side of a pot. Absolutely perfect.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations. I'm very sorry you only got a silver gilt, but
Thank
your
you.
pond looks stunning.
Thank you.
And it is just perfect wildlife-friendly pond. So, if this was outside, you'd have all your damselflies and
I hate
water
to
beetles all
say,
flying
how
in.
do you make a non-wildlife pond?
Yes. Yeah, it is impossible.
It is.
Yeah, because everything just
Exactly.
finds it and comes in. But that they won't do in here.
Maybe not.
Dawn, thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you have a good Malvern over the next few days.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all those sage words.
Thank you.
Lovely.